The morning sunlight filtered softly through the curtains as Katy woke up. The memory of the previous night lingered in her mind, the connection with Sophia, the warmth of her kiss, and the freedom of letting go. She felt a satisfaction she hadn't experienced in a long time, not just because of what had happened, but because of what it meant. Every step she took showed her that the woman she had always been deep inside, the one who craved freedom and discovery, was finally emerging. Katy rose slowly, allowing herself to savor the moment. Standing in front of the mirror, she took a moment to observe herself. Her golden blonde hair fell in soft waves over her shoulders, and her green eyes sparkled with a newfound confidence. There was something different in her gaze, something that reflected a woman who knew what she wanted and wasn't afraid to go after it. As she prepared her coffee, her phone buzzed with an unexpected message. It was from Alejandro, a friend she hadn't seen in years. "I'm in town. Do you have time for dinner tonight?" Katy smiled as she read it. Alejandro had been someone important in her past, not as a lover, but as a friend who had been there during difficult times. There was something about him that made her feel secure yet curious. Without overthinking, she replied, "Sure, tell me the time and place." When evening arrived, Katy realized she felt a slight nervousness, a sensation she hadn't experienced in a long time. She stood before her closet, searching for something that reflected how she felt now, confident, passionate, in control. She chose a red-fitted dress that elegantly hugged her figure. The color symbolized her inner fire, her willingness to explore and be seen. She applied her makeup with care, highlighting her lips with a bold red, and left her hair loose, letting her golden waves cascade freely. When she was done, she looked in the mirror and smiled. She was ready. The restaurant Alejandro had chosen was perfect, elegant and discreet, with an intimate ambience created by dim lighting and soft music. Katy arrived on time, her heels clicking softly on the marble floor as she crossed the threshold. Alejandro was already there, seated by a window, and as he saw her, he stood up with a smile that seemed to light up the entire room. "Katy, you look incredible," he said, stepping forward to greet her with a kiss on the cheek. His voice was warm, familiar, but there was something new in his gaze, something Katy didn't remember from before. They sat down and began to talk. At first, their conversation was filled with shared memories and anecdotes from their younger days. Alejandro had always had a knack for making her laugh, and tonight was no exception. As the dinner progressed, though, the tone shifted. Alejandro spoke about how his life had changed, the decisions he had made, and how he had reached a point where he wanted to live more authentically. Katy found herself relating to his words. There was a connection between them that went beyond years of friendship. It was as if they were both at a point in their lives where they needed something more, something they could only find in the unexpected. A different kind of proposal. When the dinner ended, Alejandro looked at Katy with a mix of confidence and playfulness. "There's something I want to show you," he said, his voice tinged with mystery. "Oh, really?" Katy replied, raising an eyebrow, intrigued. "Yes, but you'll have to trust me. It's a special place. I promise you won't regret it." Katy studied him for a moment. Something in his gaze told her she could trust him, that this wasn't just a whim but an invitation to something meaningful. With a slight smile, she nodded. Alejandro took her to a penthouse in an old building, where soft music and dim lights created a cozy, sophisticated atmosphere. The space was decorated with modern art and details that spoke of someone with refined taste. But what truly captivated Katy was the terrace, which offered a breathtaking view of the illuminated city. On the terrace, Alejandro handed her a glass of champagne. Both leaned against the railing, observing the view in comfortable silence. There was something about the atmosphere that made everything feel more intense, more real. "I've always admired the way you are, Katy. Your beauty, of course, is undeniable, but what attracts me most is your authenticity, your strength," Alejandro said, looking directly into her eyes. His words took her by surprise. There was sincerity in his tone, something that struck a deep chord within her. It wasn't just a compliment, it was a recognition of who she was and who she was becoming. Katy felt her defenses crumble, and before she thought too much, she leaned toward him. Their lips met in a kiss that began softly but quickly grew more intense. It was as if the years of distance between them dissolved in that moment. The kiss was full of restrained passion, of emotions that didn't need to be explained. Katy let herself go, feeling the warmth of his hands on her skin, the taste of champagne still lingering on his lips. The night unfolded into a whirlwind of emotions and sensations. In that penthouse, Katy and Alejandro crossed boundaries they had never explored before. Their touches were a mix of tenderness and desire, a dance between the familiar and the unknown. For Katy, this wasn't just an act of passion, it was an affirmation of her freedom, of her ability to decide what she wanted and to enjoy it without fear or guilt. As dawn began to paint the sky in shades of pink, Katy dressed quietly, watching Alejandro as he slept peacefully. Before leaving, she took a piece of paper and left a note on the terrace table. "Thank you for reminding me who I am." Back at home, Katy stood before her mirror once more. Her hair was tousled, her lips still stained with bold red, and her eyes held a light she hadn't seen in years. This encounter had been more than just a night of passion. It had been a reminder of who she was and what she was capable of becoming. With a satisfied smile, she turned off the lights and fell into bed, ready to face the day with the same intensity she had lived the night.